Stage 5 of the Giro D'Italia would leave Genoa, the city of the lantern, one of the biggest port cities in the Mediterranean, famous for many a stage on the Giro D'Italia, but this will be the first start for quite a while, almost 2 decades in fact. The route would take the riders along the old Aurelia, Passo del Bracco, the first climb in the early part of the stage, then an intermediate sprint, an Intergiro, into Massa, heading to Camaiore and into Tuscany, Monte Magno, with a finish in Lucca. 20 kilometres from the finish would be the final obstacle for the sprinters, who were hoping to make it 3 opportunities out of 3. Tadej Pogačar remained in the pink jersey, and this time was in all pink. A Wednesday afternoon in Genoa with the sun shining and plenty of scenery to enjoy for the peloton as an early break went away. It'd take only a couple of kilometres for things to settle down initially. Lewis Askey, one of the riders attacking. He'd be with Mattia Bais that is, and Ewan Kustju. They'd soon be joined by Emanuele Tarozzi. That as well as Simon Geschke. And 10 kilometres in, things began to settle down, or at least for a while. Peloton seemingly happy with things for the day. Not everybody happy though. One of the riders in the break decided to rejoin. Arkea Samsic and Ewan Kustju deciding to join Pogačar and company back in the bunch. 1:45, the biggest advantage. Lidl Trek, Soudal-QuickStep and Alpecin-de-Koning going to work. And to work on the first climb of the day. They would start to bring the advantage back, put Fabio Jakobsen, a few other sprinters in trouble, and by the top of the Passo del Bracco, be within just 15 seconds or so. Several other sprinters had struggled, including Caleb Ewan, Tim Merlier briefly off the back as well. And at the front, the mountains points going to Simon Geschke. 9 for him. He got there just ahead of Mattia Bais. So 115 kilometres still to go. Peloton racing downhill, and 4Ks later, the break would already be brought back. Alpecin-de-Koning, after hurting the legs of sprinters and trying to help Caden Groves, would then turn off the gas. Those dropped would get back, and there'd be a brief interlude whilst everybody worked out what to do. Nobody else seemingly wanting to attack. Even Jakobsen got back after having been 4 minutes behind at one point. The intermediate sprint then came. There was a crash on the way into it with Christophe Laporte hitting the deck. Milan was at the front for a while, but then he'd be overtaken not just by Olav Koy, but also Caden Groves. He would take the 12 points. There'd be a licking of war wounds for the European champion Laporte, but he'd get back on his bike, and soon he'd be back in the peloton after a 20k chase. Outside of that intermediate sprint, 77 k's to go, Benjamin Thomas attacked. He took with him Michael Valgren, Andrea Pietrobon and Enzo Paleni. 2 Frenchmen, an Italian and a Dane. The Dane having lived in the destination city, and one of the Frenchmen a resident of Italy. 1:30 was their biggest gap, and with just under 30 k's to go, just under a minute remained. It looked like it was still in the choice of the sprinters. Another couple of really nasty crashes happened though, including this one for Tobias Foss. Enoch Mulbrahan involved as well, Michael Woods and several other riders. Final climb of the day and 52 seconds, 21 k's to go. Most still working, but not everybody. Not everybody wanting to commit, and the political game started behind. And whilst they wrangled, whilst they chatted, not everybody was able to give everything. At the front they certainly were, and they began to believe. A tailwind, quite a bit of downhill. There were desperate turns from those who hadn't yet contributed. But it wasn't going to be enough. 5 kilometres remaining, 40 seconds the gap. And this was going the way of the breakaway. Unless they started to look at each other though. If they messed around, their opportunities would go up in smoke. They went inside the final 3 kilometres. Peloton then safe for any punctures, crashes, problems. The GC teams had done their job. Would the sprint teams be able to catch them? No was the answer. Hesitation with just over 1 kilometre, 300 metres to go. And at the front, Pietro Bon, who'd been sitting on for the final few Ks, decided to attack. He got a good gap. Paleni helped close. Valgren launched the sprint. Thomas came up there, and Cofidis, who hadn't had a win all season in any single race, finally had one. Thomas silencing the doubters, winning a Grand Tour stage for the first time, and in Puccini's Luca, it was operatic from the breakaway. Thomas singing the final note. Milan behind, winning the sprint for 5th place, but the sprinters had messed up. Delight for Cofidis and Benjamin Thomas, a Frenchman resident in Italy, winning on adopted home roads. Valgren, who had such the big comeback from an awful injury, making sure that he would be second. So close for him, but he was back at the very top. Thomas, Valgren, Pietro Bon, Paleni, with Milan leading the sprint. Pogačar keeping the pink jersey. And no changes in the top 10. 46 seconds the lead going into the next stage, which promises to be one that could deliver plenty of excitement. The GC riders will have to be careful. Strade Bianche, 3 sectors of Sterrato on the way to Rapolano Terme in Tuscany. It's all live and on demand on Discovery Plus, Eurosport, or if you're in the US, on Max.